share the okay. So we will be talking about the review of feedback control system, which will be continuing because I have started this topic, I think 2 or 3 classes before. So we are talking about in the last class the stability analysis method. There are 5 methods: root array, direct substitution, root locus diagram, Bode stability criteria, and Naive stability criteria. Out of these 5 methods, we have already discussed the root array, direct substitution, and root locus diagram in the last class. So today I will discuss the Bode stability criteria and the Naive stability criteria. And to discuss that, we should also know what is, because these two stability criteria falls in the frequency response domain, whereas the other three falls in the criteria of transfer function domain, so or S domain. This is in the omega domain or frequency response domain. So we should know what we mean by the frequency response analysis. Then we'll learn what is the Bode stability criteria and the Naive stability criteria. This is I again emphasize that since this is a repetition of the what you have learned in your basic process control course, so I'll not go into the details. I'll just give you the brief idea on these topics. So let's move on the what do we mean by the frequency response analysis. Frequency response analysis is pretty simple. Is here the input in Laplace domain analysis. Normally what we have done is we have taken the input is a step response or a pulse or a ramp input. But in case of a frequency response analysis, the input is only a sinusoidal input or an oscillatory input. So normally we take a sinusoidal input for the frequency response analysis. And if you give a sinusoidal input to a process, then we'll get again a sinusoidal output or a sine wave. So give a sine wave as an input and you get a sine wave as an output. So it will be like this. Let me get the laser pointer here. So it will be like this. You have given an input like this and you will get an output like this. So the characteristics of this input and output will be used for the frequency response analysis. So one of the characteristics is the amplitude ratio, that is the is given over here, the amplitude of the input output by the amplitude of the input. Then you have got the phase lag, which can be calculated based on this time difference delta t by period of oscillations into 180 degree, which is basically the phase lag. And sometimes this process is acts as a filter or an amplifier. So when you give a sine wave, then that sine wave may be attenuated or can be amplified. Yes, please. Normally, from the Laplace domain to frequency response domain, we can get the frequency response analysis from the Laplace domain transfer function by putting S is equal to j omega. Now, frequency omega is a complex number, so Gs, when it becomes to g omega, it will become a complex quantity. The g omega will become a complex quantity, and since it's a complex quantity, then from this g omega, we can find out the amplitude ratio and the phase lag. So if the g omega, I put S is equal to j omega, so I'll get g j omega. It's a complex quantity, so it will have a real real number and the imaginary component, real component and the imaginary component, which will be a function of the frequency omega. This can be written as rho omega e to the power j phi omega. These are all mathematical notations which you know already. And the rho omega, which is the air, which is the amplitude ratio, can be calculated by r square omega plus imaginary square omega. So real part and the imaginary part squares, and taking a square root of that, which is nothing but the modulus of g omega. Yes, hello? I'm taking class already. So the amplitude ratio is nothing but the modulus of the g, that complex number g j omega, and the phi is the phase difference, which is nothing but the arctan of imaginary part of the imaginary omega by real omega, which is nothing but the angle of the g j omega. So this way we can calculate the amplitude ratio and the phase difference. So we can represent this frequency response in two ways. One is the Bode plot. The Bode plot is nothing but the log-log plot of the amplitude ratio versus omega, and the semi-log plot of phi versus omega, or the phase difference versus omega. And in the Nyquist plot, basically we plot the real part of that complex number g j omega versus the imaginary part, with a which will be varying. This real part and the imaginary part will be varying as omega varies. So for various values of omega, we'll plot this RE and IM, real part and the imaginary part. Here the omega is the implicit in this plot, because it will not appear explicitly in this plot. So these are the two ways we can represent the frequency response. So let us see in the Bode plot, how do we represent this? In the Bode plot, normally you'll have this side is your air or amplitude, and this side is the frequency. So you have got a log-log plot of amplitude with the frequency, and the semi-log plot of phase difference with the frequency. In the semi-log plot, frequency is the log domain and phase is in the regular normal domain. Now, this Bode plot, the amplitude versus frequency Bode plot, can also be found out based on the low frequency asymptote and the high frequency asymptote. So if you draw a line over here, draw a slope over here, then I will get a low frequency asymptote, and I will also get a high frequency asymptote. The meeting point of the low frequency asymptote and the high frequency asymptote is called the corner frequency. So similarly, here also in the phase plot, when phase difference is minus 180 degree, that phase is basically called that frequency is basically called the crossover frequency. The frequency where the phase difference is minus 180, that frequency is called the crossover frequency. We can calculate the steady state gain from here k, which will be rho 0 e to the power j phi 0, which means this value is basically nothing but the steady state gain at frequency 0. And the bandwidth, which is normally used for control system design, the bandwidth is the highest frequency where the process displays no attenuation. That means this line, when it falls off, then at that point is basically the bandwidth. Normally, this bandwidth is calculated based on this gain k by or 0.707 K or K by root 2. Another important parameter is the roll-off. So this is basically the slope is continuously decaying. So this is basically called the roll-off. This slope, if it is a first order system, this slope will be -1. If it is a second order system, this slope will be -2 and so on. So the roll-off is basically tells at the frequency this slope basically is starting. Next, I'll come to the Nyquist. Next, I'll come to the Nyquist diagram. In the Nyquist diagram, we are basically plotting the imaginary content of the transfer function with the real content. As the omega is varying from 0 to some high values. So we, like here for a typical Nyquist plot, we started from here omega 0 and then it goes there and goes over here. So when it crosses this 0 here, then it's basically called the crossover frequency and it will go back again to this value. The radial distance from the origin on the Nyquist plot is the amplitude ratio, which will vary as omega varies. And this from here to here, this will be obviously at omega 0, this amplitude ratio will be nothing but the gain. And this one is the phi omega is the phase difference. So the so here basically this portion is basically this distance from the is basically at omega is equal to 0 is basically the process gain. Let us now see some of the cases like for a first order process. For a first order process, if we can easily build a Bode diagram. In the here basically I have plotted here ER by Kp or process gain with tau p omega, which basically tells me at tau p at this point, this is my bandwidth. At tau p omega is equal to 1, it will be my bandwidth. Because this bandwidth comes from the first order system itself. So if you see, here is equal to given by k by 1 plus root over tau square omega square, and if I put tau omega equals to 1, that is omega is equal to 1 by tau, then I will get AR is equal to k by root 2, which is the k 0.707 k. So this value is the 0.707 k, and at this value tau omega will be equals to 1, which will be the bandwidth for this case. So this bandwidth basically definition came from the Bode plot of the first order process, but this is extended to all other kinds of Bode plot of all other kinds of processes. The slope over here for a first order process will be -1, and the phase difference for a first order process will goes to the -90 degree. That so phi will be -90 degree, because at omega tending to infinity, this I will get -90 degree. Now let us see this for a second order process. For a second order process, I am taking a general second order process where tau square s square plus twice zeta tau s plus 1, which now if you give a sine wave over here, which is sine wave Laplace transform is a omega by s square plus omega square, where A is the amplitude, and Yt just a minute. And we will get the expression for Yt of this, which will be again a sine wave with sine omega t plus phi, where phi is the phase difference. And the phi will be calculated from this expression minus tan inverse twice j omega t by 1 minus omega tau square. And the ER, I put here over here is the normalized ERN. So that means it is divided by K, that the process gain. So I got the 1 by this thing. ER will be Ky this thing, okay? So once you get this I can plot in the Bode plot. So what will happen for the second order process when damping factor is equals to 1, I will get a plot like this. The slope here will be -2. But when damping factor increases, then we'll get a overshoot in the plot. We'll get a overshoot in the plot, or we'll get a peak in the plot. Okay, so we'll get and this peak point is basically called the resonance frequency. This peak point is basically called the resonance frequency. So this resonance frequency normally we'll get when the damping factor is less than 1, which means the process is underdamped. So for a process with overdamped or a damped process, I will get a Bode plot in the amplitude versus frequency plot as a monotonic plot, which will be has a low frequency asymptote and the high frequency asymptote, which will be continuously decreasing after the corner frequency. But whereas in underdamped process, the amplitude will increase up to a corner frequency, and then it decreases, and then it goes to a slope. Finally, it reaches to a slope of -2. So this is basically the maximum amplitude, or it is called the maximum amplitude AMPs. So this parameter is important when you are measuring the performance of the control system. The resonance frequency and the parameter is important when you are measuring the performance of the control system. Similarly, you will have the phase difference with the omega plot. In this case, as the frequency changes, the phase difference plot will change, and it will become more of a sigmoid in nature, more of a sigmoid or hyperbolic in nature, as the damping factor reduces. As the damping factor reduces. If we have a multiple system, then we can have the Bode plot is pretty simple to calculate. So for that case, let's say the system we have taken GS is equal to G1s, G2s, G3s, where G1s, G2s, and G3s are 3 first order systems of different time constant 10, 5, and 1. Then I can easily find out that J omega is the product of individual modulus of Gj omega, G1j omega, G2j, modulus of G1j omega, G2j omega, and G3j omega, that I will multiply and I will get the modulus of Gj omega. Similarly, the phase difference, I will get the addition of the phase difference of all the 3 systems. So in the Bode plot, I will get this for G1, I will get this one, for G2, I will get this one, and for G3, I will get the Bode plot, and product of this, I will get the final G of this one. Similarly, in this case, phase difference also, I'll get the similar thing. For all these three cases, you will find the phase difference is minus 90 degree, because finally it will get the minus 90 degree. But combination of all the processes in series for GS, I will get a phase difference of minus 270 degree. I will get a phase difference of minus 270 degree. Now let us see what will happen to the if the process is in the process we have a time delay element. So if process with the time delays, in that case, what will be my Bode and Nyquist plot? In case of so time delay element is e to the power minus theta s. For this, Gj omega will be 1, but the phase difference will continue to change with omega. So phase difference is linearly related to omega. So what will happen is, say if I have a G1s, G2s and G3s, the process, the earlier process what I have told, and that is augmented with a delay transfer function e to the power minus 2s, then you will find that amplitude ratio plot, Bode amplitude ratio plot will remain same, because the contribution to the amplitude ratio is unity due to the delay term, so that will remain same. But whereas in the phase difference term, because of the delay element, it will continue to fall off. So or the phase difference continues to change. So phase lag continues to increase, whereas in the case of G, the phase difference will be at minus 270. That will be reflected in the Nyquist plot. In the Nyquist plot, if I plot only G1s, G2s and G3s, I will get this plot, this inner one. I will get this plot. It will meet it over here. It will meet it over here. Whereas if I plot with the delay element, that is the outer one, then what will happen is it will goes on encircling the origin. It goes on encircling the origin. Because as omega increases, the phase difference will continue to fall, and so it will goes on encircling this. So because it will goes to the minus 360, and then again it will from 0 to again minus 360. So it will goes on encircling this origin. Now let us see what will happen to the controllers. For proportional controller, obviously it will be pretty simple because it's a pretty simple gain element, so you can easily find out what will be the Bode plot. For a PI controller, you can see the nature of the Bode plot is somewhat like this. You can see the nature of the if you compare the nature of the Bode plot with a fast order system and the PI controller. For a fast order system, the Bode plot is something like this, whereas for a PI controller it's reverse. Your slope starts initially and then it reaches to some steady state values. Similarly, in the phase difference, it will start with 0. For a fast order system, it starts with 0 and then goes to the minus 90. Whereas in this case, it starts with minus 90 and goes towards 0. So it's basically a complementary to a fast order system. The PI controller is a complementary to the fast order system or inverse of a fast order system. This you can easily visualize. Let's say I'm controlling a process having a transfer function G. And I'm not doing any feedback. So I put in G, I have a transfer function G, and I am multiplying this transfer function with the controller transfer function, let's say GC. So Y, and I say Y is equal to G into GC into Y set point. Okay, so there is no feedback path. is basically open loop path. So y is equal to g into gc into y set point. So if I want y should follow the y set point, then the gc should be equals to the 1 by g, right? So that is what basically this PI controller is doing over here. It is getting an inverse of the G so that it can control the process. For a PID controller, you have got two things. One is the before going to the PID controller, this is also another important part is the in this PI controller, what is the integral action? This part is the integral action. This part is the integral action, and this part is the proportional action. This part is the proportional action, and this part is the integral action. So you can see that when you start, initially you have the proportional action, and as it goes, your integral action takes over and put the process. So there is no offset for that. In case of a PID controller, you have got the integral action and the derivative actions. You have got the integral action and the derivative actions. Now here these derivative actions is also augmented with the proportional actions. But since tau ds which is varying, so that this value is increasing. The ER is increasing at this as the frequency progresses. So initially the derivative actions is pretty high. So initially the derivative action is pretty high. That's why you will get the derivative peak when you give a set point change. So initially the derivative action is pretty high, then it falls off, and then the integral actions takes over. Now, the meeting point of the derivative actions and integral action, that is when the integral action is dominant, starting to dominate the overall actions, that frequency is called the notch frequencies. Normally in a PID controller, when you are tuning the integral actions and the derivative actions, basically you are shifting this notch frequency either this side or that side. Okay. And here also your phase difference is basically starting from some values over here -90, and this goes to the +90. So the phase difference here for a PID controller starts from -90 and goes to the +90. Okay. So this is basically the response of the Bode-Frott for PID controller. Now let us see what do you mean by the Bode stability criteria. Now for a Bode stability criteria, let us see this first, this block diagram.
Sir, is the notch frequency and the resonance frequency different? Yes. Or are they same?
Notch frequency and see notch frequency comes in the when you are drawing a Bode plot for the PID controller. Yes. Sir. Whereas the resonance frequency comes from a second order process. Okay. So that resonance frequency come in the second order process, assuming that if I control a process using a PI controller or PID controller, the dominant response of that closed loop process will be a second order process. And based on that resonance frequency comes into the picture. Whereas the notch frequency is the property of the PID controller itself, is nothing to do with the process. Okay. So the resonance frequency is the characteristics of the process, whereas the notch frequency is the characteristics of the controller.
Okay, sir. So I was just thinking this to be like a capacitor and an inductor in series like thing. So from there, when we are trying to find the amplitude, then we perhaps put the omega tau d minus 1 by omega tau I is equal to 0, and then from there we get a resonance sense of resonance frequency over there. But I think this is somewhat different. This is more of the control.
No, that is the same thing. That is the same thing. When you are what you are basically joining two components.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
What are the two components you are joining?
Inductor, capacitor.
So what is the inductor and capacitor? How can I then represent this one as an integral element and the derivative element?
Yes, sir.
So the PID is same thing.
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Inductor and capacitor.
Yes, sir.
Right. So they are basically the term you are using, resonance frequency, is nothing but the notch frequency over here. So
that's why I was trying to relate. I was trying to say that whether okay, yes,
you
I
got
get it.
So the notch frequency you can calculate from here. If you put omega tau d minus 1 by omega tau I is equals to 0, then you can find out the omega notch frequency. Omega will be 1 by root over tau d tau I.
Right.
Right. So there is the same thing. Basically, what you have described the system is basically same thing as the PID controller.
Right.
The notch frequency I am telling over here.
Okay. So here it's called notch frequency.
There it is called in the PID controller. It's called the notch frequency, and the resonance frequency basically we use in case of a second order process.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
So let's move forward. Let's go to the Bode stability criteria. So in case of a Bode stability criteria, you can see let's see a normal generalized feedback control block diagram. So we have got a controller, process, sensor, and so on. And this is basically a feedback loop. In this feedback loop, let's say initially I have disconnected the feedback loop over here. I have disconnected the feedback loop. So the sensor output is disconnected from the controller, and I give a sine omega t change. I give a sine omega t in the YSPS. That means I give a input sine wave in the YSPS. Let's say this is a sine omega t or only a sine omega t. If I give a sine omega t over here, then here YSPS will be a sine omega t plus phi, AR sine omega t plus phi. Okay. So amplitude ratio into sine omega t plus phi, because this is a total process. So we know for in a process, if I give a sine wave as an input, then I will get a sine wave as an output with a specific amplitude ratio and the phase difference. So here also I have given a sine wave in the YSPS. So I'll get in YS another sine wave with amplitude ratio AR and with amplitude AR and the phase difference phi. So I will get AR sine omega t plus phi. Okay. Now I change this omega. If I go and change this omega till I reach to the crossover frequency. The crossover frequency definition is the frequency where the phase difference is minus 180 degree. So I increase the omega, I changes the frequency, and then I reach here at crossover frequency. I get AR sine omega t minus 180 degree. I will get AR sine omega t minus 180 degree, which means I will get minus AR sine omega t. I will get minus AR sine omega t. Is clear? Now once you get that, then this signal, which is basically giving me now minus AR sine omega t, this signal I connect it over here, but at the same time, I put this YSPS equals to 0. So I close this loop where the signal is minus AR sine omega t, and at the same time I put YSPS equals to 0, which means now there is no signal from the YSPS, but I'll get minus AR sine omega t added here. This is a minus signal, so it will become positive over here. So it will give here sine omega t, and then it will come over here. And if ER equals to 1, then it will continuously oscillate with the amplitude 1. It will continuously oscillate with the constant amplitude, right? If ER equals to 1. Is it clear to you? So in that case, this system, this closed loop system will oscillate continuously even if there is no input to the system, even if there is no input to the system. So if this ER, if this ER is less than 1, if this ER is less than 1, if I connect the system where the before the crossover frequency where the phase lag is less than minus 180 degree. So if ER is less than 1, then what will happen? Or at crossover frequency, if the ER is less than 1, then this ER will continuously fall, this ER will continuously decrease, and the system will oscillate, but then after some time it will stabilize to some fixed value. Stabilize to some fixed value. That oscillation will die down. Whereas if AR is greater than 1, then this oscillation will grow continuously because the AR will be increasing. The oscillation will grow continuously and the system becomes unstable. So which basically means the system will be critically stable, or the stability limit is the ER equals to 1 at crossover frequency. Okay, so this basically this thought experiment is the basic philosophy of the Bode stability criteria. Hope this is clear to you. The Bode stability criteria states that a closed loop system is Can you see the slides? One of you please respond.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So a closed loop system is unstable. So Bode stability criteria states that a closed loop system is unstable if the frequency of the response of the open loop GOAL has an amplitude ratio greater than 1 at the critical frequency. Here the critical frequency is the crossover frequency. Okay, the critical frequency is the crossover frequency. Otherwise, it is stable. So the Bode stability basically means at crossover frequency where phase lag is equal to minus 180 degree, the amplitude ratio should be less than 1. Then the system will be stable. So what we can do is normally to calculate the stability criteria, we find out what will be the omega when phase lag is equal to minus 180 degree or minus pi. So from here I find out the omega, and at this omega I calculate the ER. If this ER is greater than 1, then the system is unstable. If this ER is less than 1, the system is stable. So in the Bode stability criteria, this is another term basically comes. So this part is I already described. The second part is which is basically called the ultimate gain. This ultimate gain and another called is the ultimate period, which is the characteristic parameter for the Bode stability. The ultimate gain is the gain where the amplitude ratio is equals to 1. Where amplitude, where the amplitude ratio is equals to 1 and phase lag is minus pi, then basically I'll have reached the limit of the stability. Now, if I calculate the ER at omega, if I calculate the ER at omega, then I can find out what is the ultimate gain of the system, which is Kc will be 1 by AR, which is Kc will be 1 by AR. So the ultimate gain is basically is nothing but the amplitude ratio calculated at crossover frequency, Okay. And similarly, since I can calculate crossover frequency, so I can calculate the ultimate period also from these crossover frequencies, which will be twice phi by omega. I'll take one example over here. So let's say I have got a transfer function GS this value and GCS this value for the system. So I have got a closed loop process already, having a process transfer function GS and the controller transfer function GCS. So from here I can calculate GOL, which will be nothing but GS into GCS. And from this GOL, I can calculate AR and the phi, and I put phi is equal to minus pi to find out the omega over here. And from this omega, I can calculate what will be the AR. Since this AR is greater than 1, so I know this system is unstable of this because of this controller. There is another way to find out that KU and PU, ultimate gain and ultimate period, where if I use only this GS. So in that case, I use only GS, find out the phi is equal to minus, find out the omega at phi is equal to minus phi. And from that omega, I will find out what is the AR from these equations, what is the AR from the equations, and 1 by AR at omega CO will be my ultimate gain, In a Bode stability criteria, the Bode stability criteria normally used for controller design. So when I am designing a controller, I use some parameters from the Bode stability criteria. One of the parameters is the phase crossover frequency. Phase crossover frequency is the WGC, is the frequency at which phase lag is 180 degree, which is basically the crossover frequency, which is nothing but the crossover frequency omega c. And the gain crossover frequency, which I am representing here to omega PC, because this representation omega GC and omega PC, I am doing it because this representation is done in the MATLAB so that it will be easy for you to understand. So the gain crossover frequency omega PC is the frequency at which AR equals to 1. So at AR equals to 1, the frequency value at which AR equals to 1 is the gain crossover frequency. And the gain margin is the amount of gain required for the AR to reach 1 at phase crossover frequency. So GM is equal to 1 by ARC, where ARC is the amplitude ratio at the gain crossover frequency. The amplitude ratio at phase crossover frequency. And the phase margin is the amount of phase difference required phase lag to reach 180 degree at gain crossover frequency. So the PM is equal to 180 plus 5PC, where 5PC is the phase lag at phase crossover frequency. In the Bode plot, if I use a MATLAB, if I define a transfer function, say first order with time delay transfer function, let's say in a MATLAB, and if I use a MATLAB command margin, within bracket the transfer function, let's say G is the transfer function, then I will get a plot like this. Where the gain margin and the phase margins are basically defined like this. So this is the point, this is the frequency point where AR equals to 1. Where AR equals to 1, the magnitude we have given is here is in terms of dB, which is nothing but the 20 log 10 AR, which is nothing but 20 log 10 AR. So AR equals to 1 over here. So at AR equals to 1, this is your frequency, which is nothing but the gain crossover frequency. This is the gain crossover frequency. At the gain crossover frequency, the phase difference, the difference between your phase difference and minus 180 degree is the phase margin. Which basically means this, because of this phase margin, the system is stable. Because of this phase margin, the system is stable because it does not reach the minus 180 degree. Whereas, if you take at the crossover frequency or the phase crossover frequency where phase is minus 180 degree, I will get the Bode plot like this. I'll get it, the amplitude ratio at these values. So this amplitude ratio is less than 1. So the difference between this 1 and this value is the gain margin. Okay, since it's a log-log plot, so that's why it's a 1 by this ARC value. Okay. So this is basically the gain margin and the phase margin. These gain margin and the phase margin terms are normally used for designing or tuning a PID controller. Okay. Next, I'll come to the Nyquist stability criteria. In the Nyquist stability criteria, it states that if n is the number of times that the Nyquist plot encircles the point minus 1, 0. Why the point minus 1, 0 is coming into the picture? So let me first state that encircles the point minus 1, 0 in the complex plane in the clockwise direction, and P is the number of open loop poles of GOL that lie in the right hand plane. Then Z is equal to n plus P is the number of unstable roots of the closed loop characteristics equations. So my characteristics equation is 1 plus GOL equals to 0. Okay, which I can write GOL is equal to minus 1 comma 0. Minus 1. So GOL is a complex number. So which is nothing but the real plus j into imaginary part, which is equals to the minus 1 is the real plus minus 1 plus j 0. So that's why in the complex domain the point is minus 1, 0. So in a Nyquist plot, that minus 1, 0 point is important because this basically gives you the stability. This is basically a stability point. So if the Nyquist plot encircles the minus 1, 0 point, then the systems become unstable. Like here, basically, is for this transfer function, if I use a proportional controller GCS is equal to 3.2, that means a proportional current 3.2, then this Nyquist plot basically encircles the minus 1, 0 point. So minus 1, 0 point over here. It encircles the minus 1, 0 point over here. This Nyquist plot starts from somewhere here, and then it comes like this, and then it encircles over here. When it encircles this one, then the system has become unstable. This is basically lying on the minus 1, 0. So this is the system is on the stability limit. That means the system response will be continuously oscillating with constant amplitude. So if GCS is less than 3.2, then it will not encircle, it will go through this. If it is more than 3.2, let's say 3.4, then it will goes like this. Okay. So this way you can find from the based on this Nyquist criteria, we can find out what is the stability limit. So in essence, process control or the design of the control system is based on the stability. So that's why I'm written this line. Control is about stability. Unless we know the stability criteria of a system, it is difficult for us to design a control system. And we have discussed over here the exponential stabilities, because it's for the linear system that is important. So we have taken root criteria, direct substitution, root locus, Bode criteria, and Nyquist criteria. These are basically these root criteria, direct substitution, and root locus methods normally used where the rational transfer function. The transfer function is the ratio of the two rational polynomials where there is no date time. Although in the direct substitution method we can use date time. Whereas in the Bode criteria and Nyquist criteria, we can use any kind of transfer functions. And these are the MATLAB common roots, frequency, Bode, and Nyquist normally which can be used to find out the roots. Basically, is find out the roots of a polynomial. So we can find out the roots of the polynomials, and from there we can find out whether it's stable or not. But normally these two, frequency, Bode, and Nyquist, basically are used to find out the stability criteria. Finally, another thing in the frequency response domain, we can also do a process identifications. We can also do a process identifications. I have given you some process identification technique, classical process identification technique in the Laplace domain. When we have given a step response and we use the Ziegler-Nichols, we use the Sundaresan Krishnaswamy Smith's method as well as the Takashi method. This method is dependent on the frequency response analysis. So in this case, in the frequency, and it's basically based on the Nyquist method, because we know if I have a process, FODT process, first order process with time delay, then the ultimate gain Kc at the crossover frequency omega c is actually the first intersections of the Nyquist plot. So here basically this is basically the crossover frequencies over here. So at that point, if I write these equations, then I will get these two equations. K into cos omega c theta minus omega c tau sin omega c theta by 1 plus omega c square tau square is equal to 1 by Kc. And the second equation is sin omega c theta plus omega c tau plus cos omega c theta is equal to 0. These two equations I can get from AR and phi equations. Okay. AR and phi equations calculated at omega c. So from there I will get these equations. Now here for known values of k, because from the steady state values of the input and steady state values of the output, I can calculate the k. So delta y infinity by delta u infinity, I can calculate the k. So k is known to me. Then I can find out the theta and tau by solving these two equations, So let's say how can I solve it? It's pretty a nonlinear equation. So I put theta is equal to x1 and tau is equal to x2, and I write these two equations in these forms in terms of x1 and x2, where x1 is equal to theta, x2 is equal to tau. So I write these two equations, two function f1 and f2. Two functions I will get. I can calculate the Jacobian matrix also in this form, and then I can use a Newton's method to find out the x1 and x2, which will give me the theta and tau. So this is another method of finding the transfer functions, using Nyquist criteria or the frequency response criteria, Nyquist or the frequency response method. The advantage of this method is not only that you can use the frequency response data, also you can use a higher order transfer function and convert to a lower order or first order with date time transfer functions. So if you have a higher order transfer function, let's say 8th order or 9th order transfer function, from there I can easily construct these two equations, because I can do a frequency response analysis on the 9th, 8th order transfer function, and I get equations like these, because from there I can easily calculate omega c and the kc. And from there I can find out the theta and tau value. Solving these two equations, this theta and tau value, then it will be easily converted to first order with date time value. Okay. So I'll stop here. So this in essence basically gives you an idea of the some process dynamics part in terms of a controller as well as the processes. So from the next class onwards, I'll just start giving you input on the feedback controller designing for the initially starting with first order with date time processes, then for the other processes. Okay, so let me stop over here if you have any questions. Do you have any questions on this? So if you do not have any questions, so let me end this meeting. Thank you very much.